honesty, especially with yourself, is a big thing. And some people just don't get it. But let's see how Billy's dream reveals how he has that innate honesty with himself to know when something is good for him and when something isn't good for him.
So I go into the shopping mall. I went past some shops and noticed that two shops that I passed sold specialty desserts, right? Which is a weakness of mine. So my weakness comes into this dream. One of those shops had a sample plate with plenty of icing on it out in front of their store, which I have an affinity with icing. Anybody that knows me will tell you that. After going to the restroom, and I physically in the dream did not see myself going through restroom. I think I walked up to the door. I might have seen myself walking in the door, but I don't have any recollection of going actually to the restroom while I was in there. The next thing I know is that I came out and I walked past the samples that were at this one store that were out there on a plate in front of the store. And I walked past them saying that I need to just keep on going and stay healthy and just stay away from the icing. And then I stopped. I was overcome by desire, weakness, and my soft spot for icing. And I just backtracked and I went and I took a sample off of that plate. I noted in the dream that it was good quality icing, which that makes a difference, okay? I don't like bad icing, fake icing. I was eating it as I walked by the other store, the competitor's store that did not have samples out front. And they saw, it was a man and a woman in maybe their 20s that were workers at that store. They saw that I had a sample from the competition, which I couldn't hide because icing was all over my face.
Tell me what you think about that part.
Weak-willed.
Well, perhaps, and very insightful though. You know, Billy, this is very important for most people. You have to have enough presence of mind and honesty, self-honesty, to make the judgment that something is weak.
Yeah.
That's a major step. And people, you know, people usually kind of open up that door and then it's the construction site, you know, which didn't happen in your dream, you know. It's like you've done so much work on yourself in terms of being self-aware, wanting to look in the mirror and actually see you, not some confection, you know, of fantasy land, but to really see the true self in the reflection in the mirror. You've done that for many years of your life. So to even know that the icinged food, even though it tastes really good, is not good for you, that's major. Don't miss that, because in this dream, it's really telling you the first step of your healing. And the healing, I do think, has to do with the silence. Because in my mind, and the influence that I bring to this, is that it really is not about all of the dream stuff. It's about that state that's not even a state of mind, it's beyond that. It's consciousness itself that is just flowing. And so what we understand is, you know, having opinions and ideas and all that stuff that we just, you know, run through life, large part habitually, unless we are conscious. The silence is where the consciousness is. So that's where we're all headed. That's why we all are practicing. And with you, you see it, you're awake on the level that it's a healing.
So what do the two competitive stores have to do where one of them has a sample plate outside the other one? I mean, there has to be some reason why I walk by that second store and the two workers look out there and see that I've taken a sample from, I mean, I can't put that together as to what that meaning is.
This is interesting. Let's look at it a second. So it's the store that has the samples outside that get you, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got two stores that are both selling the same products
hmm
on opposite sides of the hall from each other. I say hall, it just, it wasn't like complete opposite sides of the mall. They were very close to each other on opposite sides. The one on the right side, as I walked by it to go to the third door, that's the one that had the plate. And then I'm turning around, coming back. So the second store was now that didn't have samples, was now on my right as I walked by it. So I walked by the plate, backed up, took the sample, rubbed it all over my face.
Identity, right? Which, I mean,
See what I got?
right. And on one level, if you get into judgment, that would be shame, shame on me for doing this, right? But, this is maybe this is not a judgment point in that way, in that light, but rather an admittance and a recognition that you're like a little kid, because that's what a kid would do. A kid puts his face in the cake, and all that stuff, and loves it because it's useful. You're just starting. It's an initiation. It's the beginning of something, which is exactly where you are with the Om Challenge. You're on day 2.
Right.
So you're exactly where you are. And, we tend to judge it so harshly. The reality is that there's nothing inherently bad with sugar. It's how we use it and when we use it. For some people, it's poison. They should never even be around it. Some people can eat and drink and, just imbibe all forms of sugar, and their body just handles it. So most of us are in between,
Right.
So on one level, it's, you wondered about the 2 stores. So I want to go back to that. The way I see the 2 stores and the way you're describing it is very much the yin and the yang, that with people would be represented by males and females. But in consciousness, which you're in a mall, it's universal mind. So in universal mind, the male female thing in terms of our bodies, like in the physical world, is not how it's measured. It's measured by the field itself and the dynamic in the field. So you are attracted to the dynamic. In other words, you want to take action here. You don't want to be what you might consider passive. You want to actually take the action that you need to for the healing to progress. And so the action, because it's a store that has the wares outside that are getting your attention, right? So I would look at that too.
Okay.
That it's the outward stuff that is helping you to focus, and you need to focus. And that when you do, it's really good. Right now, looking at the dream, you were thinking, well, it's not nutritious food or whatever, which that's worthy assessment. At the same time, in the bigger picture, and the setting of the dream then is universal mind.
Right.
So everything begins to change and tune up a little bit, and this is why we talk about dreams, is to be able to go deeper and deeper without getting lost in a rabbit hole. But you go deeper so that you can have the multidimensional consciousness view of your experience and become, in essence, free of the kind of negative, fearful judgment that everybody is prone to, because it's survival mentality. And that's what we're trying to, this Kundalini, this emergence of Kundalini, of creative thinking. We are beginning to exercise some personal power that we can be free in the way we think. We don't have to be locked into the fear. It doesn't have to control us. And everything you've talked about just with this dream, your self-reliance, your self-authority, knowing your own body, knowing what your capabilities are, knowing when to push, when to pull, all that, which is about you. That is you. So the dream particulars are helping you to refine, to see yourself more clearly, not quite so harshly, perhaps, to realize that that's the little boy getting the icing all over his face because he's doing something really cool now. He's doing something new. He's doing something he's never done before, and it's going to take him places, and he knows it. So that's part of how I see that dream in the context of everything, of all of it.
That's a lot more encouraging than the way I was looking at it when I typed it up. So I appreciate that very much.
There is a really cool movie. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's called Chocolat. And it's an amazing movie. I think it won some awards, or at least was up for some. And I don't remember the British actress that is the lead. I don't remember her name right now, but it would be one that you might want to watch, because it is basically a tale about desire and gluttony and vices and the struggles that we have with it, and the healing that can come from what we might see as mistakes. Well, we might see as sins, not just mistakes, but sins. I mean, just really reprehensible things that are truly, when seen in a broader perspective, are steps in our learning. It's just like, people with love and compassion, which of course you are, when a child puts his face in the cake, since we got there, it's not like we're going to condemn the kid and, and make him feel awful for that and that kind of stuff, even though sometimes that does happen, I know. But we won't do that, because we're more thoughtful, more evolved, perhaps more loving. And it's not in a righteous way. It's just that, of course, it's a child, and he's being, he loves it. He's expressing his joy and his love and having a good time. So why would we fault him and expect him to act like, a 6-year-old when he's 3, or a 30-year-old when he's 3? And what does all that mean? So gentleness and compassion with ourselves is essential in order for us to grow. We can't grow without it. It would be like a farmer who, sees weeds growing around the plant and just tears up the plant too, because you're growing with a bunch of weeds. Well, that wouldn't make sense to anybody who has any kind of background in how, things grow. You note the weeds and you pull the weeds as you mature as a farmer, or as, somebody who's raising plants. And we need to cultivate our own selves as gardens like that. And I see that in your dream. I see you as your subconscious mind giving to you with a sense of humor, as like, hey, Billy, you're starting with this, so don't be so tough on yourself. Have a good time. This knowledge, may not be really, really nutritious right now, but it is getting you to eat. And you've been around kids, so you know that, them eating is very important. So sometimes people add a little bit of sugar, a little bit of honey, that kind of thing, to get the kid to eat what's in front of them, because otherwise they won't.
Yeah.
So it's understanding, it's not even psychology really, I guess, although it could be, but it's understanding human nature with an eye to the spiritual.
Okay, that's the end of that dream. But don't stop watching, because this man keeps on and on and on with his dreams. Just listen to the next one. You'll see there's a lot of dead horses. What in the world could that mean?